Hey everyone, welcome to Legal Bytes. I'm Alyte. I'm a practicing attorney, licensed in California and DC, and this is another quick edition of the Legal Bytes Newscast. This is kind of a new thing on Legal Bytes that we're trying out, and initially we were thinking that this would be a once-a-week thing where we round up like 4 or 5 cases and talk about them all at once. But then we got to thinking that maybe it would be better to take each story we come across throughout the week and give it its own quick treatment. So we figured we'd give it a shot and see how it's received and see what people think and go from there. So there you go. Let us know what you think in the comments. We'd really appreciate the feedback. Anyway, I recently came across a headline about some of the Kobe Bryant litigation, and I thought it would be interesting to talk about it. Specifically, it was this Bloomberg Law article that says Kobe Bryant's widow takes aim at procedural ploy in crash suit. You probably are familiar with the tragic helicopter crash that killed Kobe Bryant last January, along with his daughter Gianna, the pilot of the helicopter, and 6 other passengers. It was such a shock to everyone, and not just in the world of American basketball. It really was felt all over the world because Kobe was such a superstar legend. Since their sudden death, a number of lawsuits were filed over the incident, primarily wrongful death actions by the families of the different victims who died in the crash. So this headline is referring to the wrongful death lawsuit filed by Vanessa Bryant on behalf of herself, her daughters, and Kobe's estate. Basically, what the article says is that what Vanessa Bryant, or probably more specifically her lawyers, are saying is that the defendants in the Kobe Bryant wrongful death case are using litigation procedure to try to do what's called forum shopping. Forum shopping is basically where a party in the litigation tries to move a lawsuit to a venue that's going to be somehow more beneficial to their side. Maybe the law is slightly more advantageous, or maybe there's something procedurally there that's slightly better for one side. Now, in any case, the facts that come out during the litigation process are really what matters more than anything. You could be in the friendliest venue ever, but if you don't have good facts in your case, you might as well just be polishing a turd, so to speak. So moving a lawsuit to another venue or forum might not necessarily make or break a case, but it can matter in ways that make a difference as to the degree of how bad or good it is. For example, one forum might be friendlier in terms of awarding damages, or another might have juries that are friendlier or more hostile towards certain professions, things like that. So getting a case to another forum might either soften the blow of your turd case, or it might give you a little more of an edge to be able to win a bigger award for damages, for example. So to give some context about how there might be some forum shopping going on in this case, we kind of have to take the scope back first a little bit and look at some of the earlier procedures starting from the beginning. Initially, Vanessa Bryant filed the case in Los Angeles County Superior Court, which is a California state court. Then on August 14th, the 2 corporate defendants that were named in the litigation that are related to one another, we'll call them the Island Express companies, together filed what's called a cross complaint. Basically, a cross complaint is where a defendant points a finger and says, "It wasn't me, I'm not responsible, it was this other guy that was responsible." And if that other guy wasn't already in the lawsuit, the cross complaint pulls them in as a cross defendant. So here, the Island Express companies pulled in 2 individuals, Kyle Larson and Matthew Conley. They were the air traffic control guys who were guiding the helicopter in the air before it crashed. So these new cross defendants work for the Federal Aviation Administration, also known as the FAA. In other words, these 2 co-defendants are employees of the federal government. And the thing about that is, if you're going to sue the government, you can only sue it under some kind of statute that specifically gives you the ability to sue it. So when you're suing a federal employee for some kind of negligence based off of something they were doing on the job, the only way you can do it is by actually suing the US government under the Federal Tort Claims Act. So if you're tracking, basically anytime you sue the federal government, it's going to be under some federal law. And when you sue anyone under federal law, you have to do it in federal court. So remember that in the Kobe Bryant case, Vanessa Bryant originally filed in state court because everyone she was suing was in California, no one was a government employee, and there was no federal law that they were suing for Kobe's death. But now, because the Island Express defendants added the air traffic control guys as cross defendants, the case had to be removed from state court to federal court, and that happened at the end of last month. So now, as of last week, the US government is trying to get the air traffic control guys dismissed from the lawsuit in what's called a motion to dismiss the cross complaint. And because the only reason that the case is in federal court is because the air traffic control guys got pulled into the lawsuit, if the judge then cuts them loose, there's no reason for the case to be in federal court, which means they'd have to remove the case back from federal court to state court again. So this leads us to the question of why. Why would the Island Express companies want to be in federal court, and why would Vanessa Bryant want the case to be in state court? Well, there could be a number of reasons for that, but the main one that jumps into my head is jury pools. When you assemble a jury in state court, the members of the jury will be taken from around the county where it's filed. If it's in federal court, usually the members of the jury are pooled from a wider area than that. So in this case, you have 2 options. You have the state court jury, which would be filled with people from around LA. And then on the other hand, you'd have the federal court jury, which would be filled with people from the greater region. Tell me, what can you expect from an LA jury in a case about the tragic and untimely death of probably the most legendary basketball player to ever play for the Lakers, whose very death was heavily mourned, most especially in LA? As you can imagine, the expectation is probably that not only would they be more likely to find the defendants liable, but they would probably go pretty vicious on the damages too. So it could be that the Island Express companies only added the air traffic control guys in order to try to quote unquote polish a turd by getting the case moved to federal court so they could try to get a jury that is a little bit less enthusiastic about Kobe. On the other hand, they could be adding the air traffic control guys because they legitimately think that they're at least partially responsible for the crash. After looking at the cross complaint, I can see that the Island Express companies make a number of allegations against the air traffic control guys, basically claiming that they increased the stress, workload, and distraction of the helicopter pilot, which significantly impacted the pilot's ability to fly the helicopter. If that's true, those are all things that can in fact lead to a helicopter crash, in which case they probably would be people that are properly brought into the case in some fashion. Anyway, that's all I have for this video. I hope that made sense. I know that this procedural stuff can be pretty dry, but when you look at it as a litigation strategy, it can really get interesting when you cut through the dryness of it. Anyway, if you enjoyed this, we'd love it if you could give this video a like, comment below, and share with people that you think might be interested in it. And if you're new here and you want to see more videos analyzing the law through pop culture lenses, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. We started uploading about once a week, but now we're aiming for at least twice a week, if not more. One video that's a substantive deep dive into a matter, and at least one on some legal news topics that we found interesting. Anyway, see you in the next video.